So I made 3 videos covering all the Easter eggs, facts, and details you missed in Demon Slayer's The Swordsmith Village, which is Season 3. And in this video, I'll be combining all of them into one massive list. Major spoilers for those who haven't watched Season 3. Let's get to it. Many of us were hyped to see the new season of Demon Slayer, and we weren't disappointed, especially with the anime taking up where we left off in Season 2 with the defeat of the upper rank 6. But did you know that when Akaza was summoned to the Infinity Castle, the entire sequence of him traveling through the castle was all an anime exclusive scene? That's right, none of it was in the manga. Instead, he just suddenly appeared in front of the Biwa demon. Pretty cool to see the studio keeping up with the awesome quality that we all know and love. Demon Slayer is a big fan on foreshadowing, and Studio Ufotable did shoehorn in some details that many anime onlys wouldn't even notice. And it's this area in the Infinity Castle. Now, I won't spoil it for you, but this area becomes very important later on in the series. And I can tell you, it's one of the hypest seasons that everyone who's read the manga is looking forward to. Many have pointed out that Demon Slayer loves to stick to a certain theme, and when it comes on to the openings, and Season 3 isn't any different. You see, each season's opening features Tanjiro and whom he will be traveling with. Mainly the Hashira he'll be paired with. Season 1's opening featured himself, the Mugen Train featured Kyojiro, the Entertainment District featured Uzui, and the Swordsmith Village featured Muichiro, the Mist Hashira, and Mitsuri, the Love Hashira. I saw where many people have been saying that the masks in the Swordsmith Village were compared to Urokodaki's mask, when in fact the only connection between them is that they are masks and they originate in Japan, but that's it. You see, the masks in the Swordsmith Village are called Hyotoko, and they are comical Japanese characters portrayed in an unusual way, with the mouth puckered to one side. The word Hyotoko is made up of the kanji for both fire and man, simply because the masks looked as if it's a character blowing fire with a bamboo pipe. It's very fitting because of the Swordsmith Village and their relation to fire, making Nichirin blades for Demon Slayers. Somewhere along the lines, they adapted the culture of wearing these masks to conceal their identity as a way to protect themselves. After all, if demons find them, it's all over. With any Demon Slayers opening, this season is riddled with Easter eggs and nod to characters that will be prominent in this season. For the Swordsmith Village, we see both Mitsuri Kanroji, the Love Hashira, and Muichiro Tokito, the Mist Hashira, as they engage with Tanjiro and the gang in an epic all-out fight with demons. Within the first few frames of the opening, we actually get a look in their past lives, just a little bit before cutting away. We see a young Muichiro talking to someone who apparently is dressed like him, and Mitsuri in a kimono before getting her sword and heading out. And there are plenty of more Easter eggs like this, so stay tuned. Another Easter egg that can be found within the opening of the Swordsmith Village is the sparring fight between Muichiro and Yoriichi Type 0. During a quick few frames, Muichiro's sword breaks. The main reason this is highlighted is because simply within the manga, it never showed his sword being broken. It was only said. And then he took a sword from Yoriichi instead. Ufotable has always been meticulous when it comes on to making sure the continuity level is kept up to a maximum. For some reason, we always see Demon Slayer hinting at this mysterious swordsman, and he is even in the opening in 2 scenes that hint at his importance in the series. One of which is easy to spot, while the other is only a few frames. For the first one, we see the swordsman standing at the forefront, behind him a few unknown people, and then the camera pans out and we start to see a pattern forming, with that of the previous Hashira, then the current Hashira, meaning that they were all Demon Slayers, which the scene ends with Tanjiro turning. Now the other one is when Tanjiro activates the Hinokami, and just for a few frames we see this very swordsman imprinted on it. Manga readers already know what this means, but the anime onlys will have to wait a little while. This one comes from the outro of Demon Slayer's 3rd season, rather than in the beginning, and more hints at a certain Hashira's life. This time we focus on Mitsuri. Within this particular scene, we see 2 versions of her, one with black hair and her dressed in a kimono, and the other pink hair in her Demon Slayer uniform. This is definitely a foreshadow for her own history, and it's pretty amazing to see. There is a second part of this within the opening showing someone walking away from her, while the ending showing herself running away from herself, as this would foreshadow her past and now. Don't worry, I won't spoil that part for you. Within the second episode where Tanjiro was fighting the mechanical doll Yoriichi Type 0, there was a whole 2 pages of manga content that was skipped. Right after Tanjiro gets knocked to the curb by the doll with wooden arms, Kotetsu lets Tanjiro know that the doll has some settings that he can turn up the difficulty, which Muichiro didn't know about, which simply means that Tanjiro has the potential to grow much more from this doll, even with Gyu making an appearance. Pretty cool if you ask me, but why did the anime skip this? One thing that Demon Slayer doesn't let you know is that each crow actually has its own name. And in the Swordsmith village, we got to see 3 of them. Tanjiro's crow, Matsuaimon Tenonji, Muichiro's crow, Ginko, and Mitsuri's crow, Urara. All are shown within the opening as well, with Mitsuri's crow being more prominent in the outro. A quick cameo that we saw in the outro as well was that of Muichiro's mom and dad. I found it incredibly surprising, as in the manga it never showed their faces. I really do appreciate the anime going the extra mile and doing this for us, because I've always wondered what they look like. A quick scene that was missing in the anime in season 3, the Swordsmith Village, episode 2, was this of Tanjiro and Muichiro's crow going at it. They really don't seem to like each other, do they? It may have only been one panel in the manga, but it really does cement how each crow has their own personality, just like humans, and may not get along with their colleagues. Tanjiro's crow is very direct and work-oriented, while Muichiro's crow, Ginko, loves to bully people along with other animals, where she lays on the Muichiro is boss sauce pretty thick. Speaking of bullies, remember that scene where Hananezuka gets all buff and bullies Tanjiro and Kotetsu for the new blade? Well, you'd be interested to know that there are 2 sequences of that little gathering that wasn't in the manga. The first of which, after Hananezuka lifts Kotetsu, Tanjiro and Kanamori chases and tickles the ape to let Kotetsu go, and the other when he gives Tanjiro his new blade. You see, this particular tidbit was only in one panel of the manga, which was in chapter 106, when Han Tengu had attacked, but I really love this more to see Hananezuka present him with the blade, while his new blade is being prepared. Another additional scene was that of Tanjiro doing Nezuko's hair. If you watched my previous facts and details video, you'd know that Tanjiro didn't know how to do her hair until he met Mitsuri, who showed him. After he gets kicked out of Genya's room, he proceeds directly to braid her hair, much like how Mitsuri does hers. But there wasn't really a panel in the manga. Instead, it was just a sketch that was made, and maybe a bit of a throwaway thing. Another reason why we appreciate the animators going out of their way to even animate random sketches like this for us. We spoke about masks of the Swordsmith village earlier, but we didn't mention one key detail. Kotetsu is said to look just like the mask he wears. This fact was told to us directly by Tanjiro and Nezuko at the end of episode 2 of the Swordsmith village, and rewatching this episode, I saw parts of his face. His rosy cheeks are a dead giveaway. I'm not too sure about those eyebrows though, cause man, those things need a lawnmower or something. We haven't spoke about Genya much since the season started, and don't worry, unlike me, the animators didn't neglect him either. He got his own anime exclusive scenes, one of which is when he was searching for his swordsmith to pick up his weapon, but he didn't see him and realized that his Nichirin blade was ready, which he promptly collected. But it didn't end there. Another one was when he shot the heads off the Hantengu clones. The scene of him reloading his gun was also an anime exclusive. Hats off to you, Genya, for bringing a gun to a sword fight. Hands down, one of the best decisions I've seen made in Demon Slayer in a really long time. Episode 4 of Demon Slayer's The Swordsmith Village came with its own anime exclusive scenes, like the extended fight between Yurogi and Tanjiro. Within the manga, this fight was much shorter, only a few exchanges between the Demon Slayer and the demon. However, in the anime, Tanjiro really gets slapped around, getting hit multiple times by the Joy clone before even being able to land a single blow. On top of that, the anime added this scene with Tanjiro running away to use as a momentum to springboard towards the demon, unlike in the manga where his attack seems to have come out of nowhere. One of the standout cast members in this season is Genya. With Bakugou's voice actor, Nobuhiko Okamoto, he's fast become one of the fan favorites with everyone, and I can share the same sentiment. In episode 4, we can see him strike an epic pose to let Aizetsu know that he's Genya Shinagazawa, and he will be the last face you see. This scene had 2 major points, one of which, when he was striking a pose, it wasn't in the manga, so it was definitely an anime exclusive. On top of that, when he was saying his name, it was a literal play on words, as his name, Shinazu, is written with a character for immortal. Seeing that he's so hard to kill, it's not very difficult to realize the connection. Another big change of episode 4 of the Swordsmith Village comes closer to the end. Under normal circumstances, anime episodes follow a specific path based on the manga, but here we saw Demon Slayer make some huge changes. changes. Within the manga, after the initial defeat of Nezuko and Tanjiro within chapter 110, we were supposed to catch up with Muichiro and Gotetsu. Instead, we skip ahead a full one chapter to 112, showing the attack of the demon fish on the swordsmith village, followed by another skip where we go back another one chapter to the end of chapter 111, when Mitsuri would finally make her way to the village. The fun thing I love about Demon Slayer is that Ufotable always animates scenes that we thought were pointless or we wouldn't get. But more than that, they make scenes much clearer than the manga, one of which comes from episode 6 of the Swordsmith Village, when Nezuko was freed from the rubble. In the manga, it wasn't really clear what happened. I even thought that it was Genya who had attacked Nezuko for a moment. I'm glad that was cleared up, showing Tanjiro was the one to get her out of the rubble. Speaking of changes that made the manga make a bit more sense, with the exchange between Tanjiro and the demons, in the manga it didn't show Yurogi until Tanjiro attacked him, slashing his wings and face. But in the anime, he was there attacking in the midst of Sekiru's onslaught, which makes much more sense seeing that the demon was desperate to prevent Tanjiro from finding its main body. In the manga, it also wasn't clear how Tanjiro knew that there was a fifth body other than just smelling it out. But in the anime, this was solved. It gave us a visual representation of the color codes for each of the clones, and showing that the fifth clone smelled similar, but the smell was a bit more faint. Also, Tanjiro first picked up this scent in episode 5 when Nezuko was saving him from Sekiru's attack. One thing I thought that didn't make sense was Genya's remarks as he was being attacked by Sekiru. He said he was dead and he couldn't regenerate his head. Yet when he defended Tanjiro against Aizetsu, it gouged out pieces of his body, and we can clearly see that his face was affected, with his cheek almost completely gone. But yet he was able to recover from this. Isn't his face a part of his head? And why is it that Aizetsu's attack mainly just poked holes in his entire body and not his face? I guess these are mysteries that may never be solved. Episode 7 of Demon Slayer saw the introduction of the real power of Antengu with his hatred clone. But did you know that this episode only really adapted 2 manga chapters? That's right. Out of every episode of the Swordsmith Village, this was the only one to essentially adapt 2 chapters and 2 pages. Chapter 116 and 117 were the main focus, but it also adapted the last page of chapter 115 and the cover page for chapter 118. If you'd like to see the breakdown of this, I have a video on my channel which compares the manga to the anime, so check that out. Speaking of episode 7, since it only adapted 2 chapters, it had additional minutes to get some anime exclusive scenes in. One of which was when Zohakuden attacked. He came out swinging with some epic wood dragons. In the manga, this was only a few panels, but the anime was much different, which also saw some changes to the dragons' designs themselves. Some of which are that there are branches with leaves twisting around the dragons. But more than that, Tanjiro dodging the dragons in midair. This was an anime exclusive. Something that one of the members of our community mentioned is that in episode 7, Genya's clothes had no holes in them. How is that even possible? This could also be a subtle hint to his powers. Now, if we track back, we can see that he's had a pretty substantial bulk up since the final selection. Next was when he regenerated his tooth. And then there's a rumor that he hasn't eaten since the Butterfly Mansion. All symptoms of demonification, meaning that he can recover from certain injuries. But not only that, some demons have the ability to generate their own weapons from their flesh, and even their own clothes, as seen with Daki. So it's safe to assume that Genya's clothes are also regenerated from his demon abilities. Another anime exclusive scene from episode 7 was that of Tanjiro's second dialogue with his confrontation with the demon Zohakuden. This was after the midpoint of the episode. None of what they said here to each other was in the manga. This was done to emphasize the demon's personality and how it thinks. He thinks he's in the right and that demon slayers are the bad guys. They kill the small and weak. This of course doesn't go over well with Tanjiro, and he clashes with the demon over their different ideologies. One thing that was omitted from the anime was the explanation of Zohakuden's power. Hantengu has always been a demon that evolves when he was cornered, and Zohakuden is the latest of his abilities. It's implied that this is the first time the demon has showed his face. Many demon slayers would have already died to his initial primal emotion clones. Hantengu was about to be killed, so his anger clone evolved into hatred by absorbing the other 3 clones against their will. And he's amazing in so many ways. The drums on his back allows him to control his wood and wood dragon attacks, being able to spit out wind, lightning, and sound attacks, which are all incredibly powerful. But there's more to this scene. The anime exclusive between Tanjiro and the hatred clone didn't just end when the scene cut. It actually extended into Gyoko and Muichiro's scene, with the demon just standing there and taunting Muichiro. This of course wasn't in the manga, and funny enough, This scene was also in the previous episode, so might as well fill out this one as well too, right? The scene would only catch up with the manga when Muichiro starts talking and tries to escape from the water pot prison. There is one fact that I'll spoil. All the Hashira are currently subscribed to Varistudiostv, and they're doing tryouts, so if you don't want to miss out on your chance to become a powerful Hashira yourself, hit that subscribe button with notifications on. Another thing that I noticed is that, much like episode 5 of Demon Slayer's The Swordsmith Village, with Tanjiro showcasing his most powerful breathing form, the Sun Halo Dragon Dance, episode 8 showcased some of the strongest mist breathing forms, with Muichiro demonstrating it not once but twice, and Ufotable didn't disappoint with giving it the care and love that it needed. Truly spectacular. Watch the demon run for its life as Muichiro tries to lop off its head. I really liked how the team handled Muichiro's backstory, especially when it came on to his parents. In the anime, we got more than enough shots of his father's face, and him working closely with Muichiro, unlike in the manga where he only appeared in a few panels. It's the same for Muichiro's mother as well, but it didn't stop there. They really did justice to the scene of him trying to get some herbs for his sick wife in the middle of a storm. That's some of the most realistic rain I've ever seen in any anime. Not only did we get some of the most amazingly animated scenes, we also got a lot of symbolism in this episode as well. The color contrasts between Muichiro's mother and father, the different trees in the background, and even how the brothers are portrayed in stark contrast to each other. In my breakdown of episode 8, I highlight this in detail, so I advise you to go check it out. You'll be shocked. And guys, we can't go any further without mourning the death of a very important character in episode 8. He fought valiantly since the moment he came on the screen, and we truly love all the work that he did, putting his life on the line. Let us put to rest Pepe, the CGI fish. Let's all take a moment to put to rest the greatest freaking CGI fish in all of anime. You did well, my boy. You did well. Also, in the manga, there wasn't an army of CGI fish, it was just one. Muichiro is a beast to say the least, being strong enough to take down an upper rank by himself. And he demonstrated moves unlike any other Hashira before him. His 7th form, obscuring clouds, or haze. In the anime, it was never really explained how it works, but in the manga, it broke it down for us. Muichiro drastically changes the tempo of his movements. He achieves this by wearing baggy clothes, of course. When he appears in front of his enemies, he seems slow, but he can dodge in an instant. And since he's much faster than the upper rank, he more than outclassed this demon in every single way. Why did Muichiro collapse after defeating the upper rank 5? Couldn't he just run over and help Tanjiro? Well, it's all due to his Demon Slayer mark. It grants him greater speed, strength, and endurance. Muichiro was pumped full of Gyoko's poison and even partially drowned, so most of his strength had been sapped. Then came in his Demon Slayer mark to give him a little pep in his step. When it wore off, all the battle damage that he had sustained came rushing back, causing him to froth from the mouth and even fall over. Poor guy, someone get him a stretcher. Despite most of our anime exclusive scenes being mostly of the gang, like Muichiro, Tanjiro, Genya, Nezuko, Mitsuri wasn't left out of the mix. In episode 9 of the Swordsmith Village, after her initial attack on the Hatred clone to save Tanjiro, when she ran back to get Nezuko and Genya, this is an anime exclusive. In the manga, before she would attack, she would have a swearing contest with the Hatred clone, after it called her a harlot. Well, maybe not a full-on swearing, but she sees him as a kid, and she's mommy, so you know she's about to give him a spanking. As you might have known, Demon Slayer likes to skip many of the exposition panels given in the manga by our disembodied narrator. But to our surprise, episode 10 subverts that expectation. In this episode, we got Tanjiro explaining Mitsuri's sword and how it works, Mitsuri's father giving us some exposition on her muscle density, and Genya letting us in on his abilities. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining, but hey, I like covering these things when Demon Slayer misses out, so what the hell? I really love how episode 10 of the Swordsmith Village gave us a bit of insight into Mitsuri's life. I saw many Twitter fans complaining that all the Hashira had cookie cutter backstories of dead parents, but they all shut up when Mitsuri's family is shown happy and still alive. In the manga, it kinda alluded to her family not being in her life, but the anime made sure to set us on the right path, showing us that her family actually really loved her and didn't care if she never found a man. The final episode of Demon Slayer was certainly an enjoyable one. being praised as the best episode of season 3. But with that comes a lot of changes from the manga, and since the episode is 1 hour and only 3 chapters were adapted, we can definitely see this. This episode has a lot of improvised or anime exclusive scenes, one of which being our opening chase scene when Tanjiro hunts down Hantengu's mini body. This scene is beautifully animated, with Ufotable taking real trees from the Amazon to make it possible. And I'm not lying about that, you can fact check me on their Twitter posts. I'm really loving the attention that the animation studio gave to our new MVP Demon Slayer, Genya. Within the last episode, we got an anime exclusive scene showing him running. And though it might seem insignificant for most, it isn't for us for the Varistudiostv nation. This shows that Genya is a bit different from our main Demon Slayers with the way he runs. Maybe a little bit more inexperienced when it comes down to running, but his real strength lies in his strength. Not only that, Studio Ufotable actually animated him a little differently from our main protagonists, showing that he's not as fast as Tanjiro or Nezuko, but still he does his best to try and keep up and work to his own strengths. Which, if you've been watching the episode carefully, it's definitely munching off the face of demons. Not only were there plenty of anime exclusive scenes for us to choose from, we also got some slight changes in the anime from the manga, one of which being when Muichiro gave Tanjiro his new blade. In the anime, Tanjiro heard him calling, then he threw down his new blade followed by Hananesuka choking him out, after which he passed out. Hilariously, Kotetsu thought that he was dead and blamed Hananesuka, but in the manga, the sword just appeared out of nowhere. It's at this point when Tanjiro noticed Muichiro getting choked out. Then he took hold of his blade and used it to murk this evil demon. Or so he thought. One of the best fake out scenes in the entire Swordsmith Village arc is when we thought that Nezuko was dead. In the manga, this scene was much shorter, ending somewhat after Nezuko kicked Tanjiro away to kill the demon and of course save the humans. In the anime, we got a really nice extended scene, and it showed us some flashbacks of Nezuko throughout the seasons. Anime fans already know what flashbacks in the middle of a death scene can mean. It could mean a huge power up or death signals. In this case, it was positioned so well it seemed like we were saying goodbye to one of the best characters in the entire series, which is hard for many to even comprehend. And with the blaring Demon Slayer OST in the back, I couldn't help but tear up, even though I know this wasn't the end. Bravo, Ufotable. Bravo. Some of the more notable or unexpected outcomes of this episode was that of Hantengu's backstory and also showing Muzan's life. Both were riddled with anime exclusive scenes, and we were all just gushing at them out to learn even more. In the manga, Hantengu's backstory was a beautiful 2-page spread showing snapshots of his life. Went pretty much the same as the anime, more or less. We do get more info about his life from the creator's fan books, which is really amazing, and you can learn more about Hantengu's life in one of my videos that I did on it. But not only did we get Hantengu's backstory, but we also got a surprise showing Muzan's past as well. I really thought that they would show this next season, but I'm really glad they did add it to this season, showing us that Muzan was always a sick bastard from the beginning of time. Him becoming a demon in his mind was the best thing to ever happen, except that he couldn't walk in the sun. So he's been searching a cure for this side effect ever since he became a demon. But now that Nezuko shows that she's able to conquer the sun, he will definitely go after her in an all-out war. And to wrap this all up in a neat little bow, after Muzan's little backstory, the anime content would end, and the rest of the episode when Tanjiro meets up with the village chief, Hananesuka, and then gets a celebration for saving the village were all anime exclusive scenes, which is really amazing, and I'm really happy that Tanjiro got to get his celebration after all the hard work and the injuries that he's sustained. Plus, he'll definitely need a new body as his bones are grinded to dust. There's dust at this point. Want to learn more amazing facts to level up your Demon Slayer knowledge? Click on one of the 2 videos on your screen right now, or join me again for the next Demon Slayer video. Peace out, stay safe out there.